Namaste, my dear friends. Well, today we continue, and I'll read off another interesting question and start to share some interesting knowledge. So, the comment came from John. I thought Amanita was believed to be an ingredient in the ancient drink called Soma in India. I don't know if it grows on the slopes of the Himalaya mountains or not, but it seems not to be the shroom they refer to. I'm not sure, but this is what I have gathered from writers who are just guessing, more or less. Well, John, maybe you have asked one of the very few people in the world who have actually lived in the Himalaya mountains, have actually studied the Hindu scripture for over 15 years, and at the same time doing the work with Amanita Muscaria for almost 6 years. So your question is very deep and correct, and I'm right now finishing my book connected with Amanita Muscaria. And it will be super interesting. But there, I have put it a small part, an article with this specific research connected with how Amanita Muscaria is connected with Soma. So there are the Rig Vedas. The Rig Vedas are the part of the Veda books, which were written down by the previous civilization over about 5,000 years ago. Those books have so much wisdom about the structure of life and reality that our modern science is still catching up. Well, I would say the hidden modern science, they know many of those things, but the modern person, with the knowledge that was provided by the classical system, not. But let's go into that scripture. So in that scripture, Soma has been used, if I remember correctly, over 140 times. And when we look in details how they express and explain how Soma, which effect it has, then we can see that they describe it, that it makes the person or gods feel physically tipsy. So one of the description is that the body acts as if it's under alcohol, that it's hard sometimes to fully to control it. And I can tell you from a huge amount of medicine plants and things that I have tried, the main mushroom, which has the opportunity of, first of all, to bring your consciousness to the highest high with the connection of the one and unity, or how some call it the Christ consciousness, going into that Amanita Muscaria, when you use it in a big amount, it has an impact on your physical body, through which you literally act as if you're drunk. Your mind and your consciousness is very sharp. You think very fast. You're very smooth. But at the same time, physically, you're walking as if you're drunk, or your body is not listening to yourself so perfectly. So by the description of what it gives, it fully connects with Amanita Muscaria. Going to a question, does Amanita Muscaria grow in the Himalayas? Yes, it grows. I was gathering Amanita Muscaria there. So eventually Amanita grows in the Himalayas. So the aspect that they were using this mushroom, it's very, very, very high. And I was living in a place, it's a small village, which is located in north part of India of Himachal Pradesh, next to a very special ancient city called Manali, Old Manali. By the Veda scriptures, that is exactly from where, after the Great Flood, the civilization started its development in that part of the world. So it's a very iconic place from where they say all of the gods and semi-gods eventually developed, and the mythology structured itself. And I was living in a very special village called Vashist. It's a place where one very great and special spiritual teacher used to live, Vashista, who has educated and was a spiritual teacher and a guru for very, very special gods in the Hindu mythology. So, and around, I'll just share, to get to my house from this village, you had to walk 1,000 steps up. So it was a very good workout. And also there, you still have temples, which are over 5,000 years old, and hot springs. And in that area in the forest, I have found Amanita. And eventually we speak about the Soma drink. My path, I have met different people who try to repeat the recipe. There are different recipes. There are different stories about how it's correctly made. But one thing's for sure, very often it was used warm milk with honey, a combination of extracting the elements from Amanita Muscaria and then making it a more concentrated drink. This tradition was also partly spread out in the north part of Russia in the future, connected with making a drink of Amanita Muscaria and milk. But I'll just tell you one important thing, that Amanita magical mushrooms, as the rest of the medicine plants, they are just tools to you for reconnection with who you truly are. So in other words, the effect that Soma gives you, or that rising effect towards your higher self, it can only happen if you have an ancient soul, which, let's say, which has the connection with the higher self, and then from the higher self to the spirit. If you haven't done spiritual practices, or your soul is young and doesn't have, let's say, doesn't have those connections, then it doesn't matter how much Soma drink or any other medicine plants you will take, you will never get there. The only way how you can get there when your soul is young and doesn't have that connection is that you would have a guide, a shaman, a spiritual person next to you who would open you the doors and allow you to enter to those levels of consciousness where that specific person is. That's the only way how you can get there, with a spiritual teacher, an enlightened spiritual teacher. So that reason, truly the medicine now or the specific drink, it doesn't matter. How much matters your own consciousness, your own soul, your own higher self, your own spiritual practices, and your preparation towards the remembrance of your true essence. So this is what I really want to share with you. Don't follow the flow of focusing on a drink, thinking that it will be a magical pill. Just know that the drink can only activate what is inside of you. If you want to discover what is inside of you, you don't need to drink it. You just have to do spiritual practices and keep the focus on yourself and keep yourself evolving, just like in a computer game, grinding the experience. So, so I hope that this information will find you well, and it would, let's say, help you to get the next puzzle towards this topic. And if I have tried Soma, yes, I have tried it in different varieties of preparation. As I told you, there's no one exact recipe, but it combines usually different medicine plants, and one of the key components, it's Amanita muscaria. That is the truth. But the essence of connection with God, it happens not through Amanita or the medicine plants, but it happens through your own personal essence. If your essence has a connection, you're going to get it. If you don't have it, you won't get it. Doesn't matter how much you drink. And if you don't have it, but you still want to experience it, find the right spiritual teacher. And if the spiritual teacher will see the potency on you, he might give you the blessing and guide you there to see what's up there. So I hope this is interesting and you got your own small inspiration and answers. And if it will be interesting, I can make some videos about my life in India. First time I traveled there was in 2009, and it was an expedition to the most sacred places in the Himalaya mountains from the Indian side. And eventually later on, I had 6 more journeys to India, and 6th journey, I just stayed there during the COVID time, and 2.5 years I lived there without leaving the country, including in the Himalaya mountains for almost a year. I was doing my spiritual practices and even walking without no upper clothes for 2 years. But that's a different story. I did a lot of different, quite crazy spiritual practices in my life. But maybe today's video will be more about Soma and the interesting godly drink. And let's just continue our personal journeys of the self-discovery and continue to ask questions, continue to support, comment, share. And yeah, and then you'll hear a lot more interesting facts and things. So, namaste, my dears. We're always in touch. Feel free always to share what is inside of your heart. I look up all of the comments. I answer almost all of them. And on the most interesting ones, I even record videos. So you're heard and your voice matters. And thank you for your support. Namaste.